Is getting a grad degree worth it? Today I'm going to address whether it's worth getting a master's or PhD degree and the specific situations or conditions under which it's worth it, so that it could be a guide for you if you're considering getting a grad degree. But before we go into the benefits, if you don't know who I am, I'm Edem. I have a master's degree in business administration, an MBA from Boston University, which I got on a 100% scholarship. And so I did not pay tuition. And I've been working in corporate consulting ever since. Let's talk about the benefits that you get from a grad degree or the main gains that you get from a grad degree. First, of course, the education. You go learn something new that you are not familiar with, and also get to do some research in some fields that you've not done research in. That is valuable. The second, and for me personally, that's the most important thing, especially because I got a business degree, is the network, the people you meet, the people you interact with, the professors you study from and do research with, and everyone else that you meet during that program. So that network is very valuable for your career moving forward. Speak with anybody who has gotten an advanced degree, they'll tell you. And finally, the prestige or the credibility that comes from it. There are some companies that only hire from a certain tier of uh, graduate programs, or if they're hiring for a position, they would take an undergrad with 15 years of experience. But if they found somebody with a prestigious uh, graduate degree, they would only take 5 years of experience, for example. And this happens all the time out there. So the prestige and the credibility that comes, especially from the institution that you study with, is also very valuable. So if these are the three main things that you stand to gain from getting a grad degree, but let's talk about the reasons that make a grad degree worth it. Because outside of this, a lot of grad degree programs are not worth it for you specifically. And the value of the grad degree is not based on the school, it is based on you. So you make the grad degree either worth it or not worth it. So the first one, of course, is career growth. Is there no other option? There are some industries where it's very difficult or near impossible to grow in that career unless you go get a grad degree. Typical example is biotech, and I know this because my wife works in biotech research, and there's always a glass ceiling that you have to, break through to get to scientists and senior scientists and whatnot. And usually, if you come straight out of undergrad with no work experience and continue to get your PhD straight away, by the time you graduate your PhD 5 years later, you start your career as a scientist. But if you come out of undergrad and you try to work your way up the ladder, there's this glass ceiling that in most companies will prevent you from ever becoming a scientist unless you go back to school to then go get the PhD to become that scientist. And there are rare occasions where if you're really, really talented and you're very gifted and consistent and you don't let that get to you, you can build that experience in the workplace, which is way more valuable than the PhD, to be honest, and be able to present the case to become scientist and beyond and grow in that space. But it's definitely the community or the ecosystem in the science space or sector respects that PhD for some reason. Like they expect that you must have done a PhD before we can respect you, which is, in my opinion, stupid. The next thing that makes a grad degree worth it. So to wrap that up, if that's the kind of environment or industry sector that you're working in, then definitely if you want to level up, you want to grow and advance in your career, then go get that grad degree because it will make it easier for you. The second one is prestige. company. Like I said, there are some companies that will not hire you for a position unless you have a certain higher education. But aside of the positions themselves, there are some companies that just don't hire from schools that are not in their what they call target schools. So you can talk about some of the big name consulting companies like the MBB, the strategy houses, right? It could be McKinsey and Company, BCG, and Bain. They typically would hire from the Harvards and the MITs and the Stanfords and with the Ivy Leagues and whatnot, and a few other non-Ivy League, highly prestigious schools. And so, if you did not have an undergrad in that prestigious school or in a prestigious school, and you really, really, really want to work in some of these companies, then the only way in is to try to get into the highly selective, prestigious grad schools for a grad program, and then that'll be your stepping stone into these prestigious companies. Or if you think it's not the juice is not worth the squeeze, then you can continue on the path that you are. I've decided that I don't want to get another degree. I'm tired of school. So if there are a lot of companies that you can easily get into with a Boston University MBA, but then there are other companies that you need to have that Ivy League stamp on you. So that is a factor to consider. But before you do that, please do your research into these careers. Try to meet people or go on forums and hear people talk about their experience working in these companies, the work-life balance, the demands, the expectations, and all those things. If that is what you truly, truly want, then absolutely go for it. But some people go in there without doing that research of what will come at the end, and they find themselves in a situation that they don't like down the line. The third reason, and this is for my potential immigrant folks, location. Yeah. The story of my life is that, of course, I grew up in Ghana. That's where I got my undergrad in petroleum engineering. I wanted to pivot into renewable energy career, and the opportunities in Ghana were very, 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 very limited regarding renewable energy. And so, for me to be a part or participate meaningfully in that industry, I knew that the best way for me is to come to the US. So I needed a location change. And moving to the US outside of this whole visa lottery thing, which is, of course, a lottery, is chance. If you want to ensure that you are able to move to the US, if you want more certainty, then school is a more secure way of doing that. And so I came here for school to study in this field so that I can also work in this industry sector. So if moving to the US from somewhere else is important to you and you don't want to, of course, be an come in illegally, then education, it could be grad school. So if you already have an undergrad degree, then getting into grad school and then planning to secure a job and staying is one of the smoothest paths. It's not a walk in the park, but it's way better than the alternatives. I can tell you that. And then finally, pivot, a career pivot. So if you are thinking of switching careers or switching roles in your career or something, for example, I know someone who was working in the marketing department of the consulting company that I was working with, and she wanted to transition from marketing to consulting. So she wanted to become consulting staff. And for, I think, about 3 years, they dangled that carrot in front of her, making promises that if you keep pushing, if you keep working hard and everything, we will make it happen. And it was never happening. And she realized that it was a fool's errand. So she said, screw this, I'm out. And she quit to go to design school. Well, the consulting practice she wanted to be in was a design consultant. So she quit her job to get into grad school, design school, so that she can get the design job afterwards. And so there are a lot of times where you really want to do something, but there's there's so many barriers and there's no way you'd be able to smoothly transition to that thing that you really want to do unless you go to grad school to go get that accreditation or the prestige or credibility so that you can then, after the degree or the program, get into that career, then it's absolutely worth it. So these are the reasons under which grad program will be worth it. And you notice from everything that I've said is that if it's worth it, it depends on you. Make sure you are doing your research into what exactly you're going to study, especially aligned with what exactly you want to do after school. There are some people who go to grad school without even knowing what career path they want to pursue once they graduate. And I think that's the worst thing you could do to yourself. So if you're considering grad school, definitely do your research about what you want to work in or what kind of job you want to do after grad school, and make sure that your grad school decision is aligned with that decision or that desire. I hope you found value in this one. Thank you for staying this long. And let me know which other topics about school, grad school, study abroad, higher education that you want me to address. Thank you for staying with me. I'm Edem, and I'll see you next time.